You know that saying that says, there's never a dumb question? There are dumb questions. So make sure that it's a really thought out question. We're ready for you guys. Who's got the first question?
I was wondering, what was the most dangerous situation you were in and how'd you get through it?
The most dangerous situation I was in is actually the pinnacle of my book, Shadow Cell. I was in a hostile foreign country, one of the most hostile countries to the United States, and I found out that I was actively under surveillance, which meant that the country I was in knew that I was there for nefarious reasons. So I had to execute what's known as a surveillance detection route to start identifying my surveillance and then ultimately self-exfil from the country.
You had to get out of the country just yourself.
Correct. Okay. All the stuff you see in the movies, only Shadow Cell shares how you do it professionally in real life. And that was easily the scariest, most worrisome moment. I sat across from drug dealers and weapons smugglers. I watched terrorists hurt people in front of me, and I never felt as vulnerable as when I was alone in a foreign country surrounded by people who could just take me to jail.
I'm reading that book. I'm reading that book tonight.
Can you tell me the difference between being morally flexible and being immoral?
Immoral means that you don't have morals, or the morals that you have, you're not at all loyal to, right? So this is what happens a lot of times with people who they make a moral conviction to not hit their children, but then they lose their temper frequently and they hit their children. That is an immoral person. They could reset a moral and have a new thing. I don't hit my kids on Mondays, whatever it might be, right? I was a kid that was hit, so it's okay if you, whatever. Moral flexibility means that you have to do something that you don't believe to be correct, but that you believe the outcome of the action will be worth it, right? So that has more to do with you have to manipulate a child to brush their teeth. You don't morally believe in manipulating your children, but you have to manipulate them to get them to brush their teeth, and that's only going to last a certain period of time until it becomes a habit for them, and then the manipulation ends.
I'll give you another example. So let's say you're undercover in the FBI with you're undercover, and to make sure that your cover is safe, you have to slap a kid in front of these human traffickers or whatever it is, right? So morally that's not right, but you're having to do that to keep your cover safe to eventually save those kids.
Yeah.
I would say that'd be an example.
That's a great example.
And how good are the masks? Are the masks to make you look like someone else?
The masks are not good. Yeah. The masks
not as good as the TV shows.
Then the TV shows aren't real.
That's true.
when you watch Tom Cruise don a mask, it's actually a different actor, right? Because the problem, just real quick, primer on prosthetics adhere to you with some kind of adherent. And adherents don't respond well to body heat, sweat, oil glands, temperature changes. Yeah. So you might start with a mask that's great, but as soon as you step outside in Arizona heat, it all starts to fall apart.
I hope that gives you guys maybe an idea to start your own, some type of mask thing to sell to the government. And
There's a need.
There's a problem there.
There's a need.
Maybe somebody solve that. Go ahead.
So I had a question about when you're profiling people, when you get into a conversation and you're recognizing their facial expression, their eyebrows. I take a lot of sales calls, and emotional connection is really important here. How often are you checking their body language and seeing if they're complying and mirroring yourself?
It takes practice because as the professional, the onus is on you. You can't live in your emotional brain. You have to live in a tactical brain that's moving the conversation in a direction that's deliberate. So you have to have a way to allocate your efforts in both sides of your brain. So that's a practice that you need to develop over time. And the better you are at it, the less they realize it's happening. Yeah. So to start, you're really never in your emotional brain. You are always artificially acting like you are in your emotional brain because you are trying to find out what their triggers are. After you establish the connection and after you establish the trust, then you can actually start living a little bit in your right side of the brain. You can start living in your creative brain because you already have the connection locked, and what you're looking for is authenticity. That's how we do it in the field. I'm curious if sales is different.
Yeah, because the more experience you have. So if I do 5,000 sales calls compared to somebody that's only done 50, that person has done 5,000 sales calls. If they were trained the right way, their brain is going to start picking up on patterns, right? So the more experience you have, your brain starts to recognize similar patterns. It's easier to go back and forth compared to if you're brand new in sales, you don't really know what those patterns are yet. Does that make sense? So the more experience you have, the more you recognize, your brain picks up on patterns, and it's just you're not even thinking about it. Like when I was getting on sales calls after a while, like I wasn't thinking like, oh, they did this, that. Like I just recognize. I don't even think about it. I just recognize the pattern.
When you are feeling emotional, you should not trust yourself. You need them to feel emotional, right? If you're emotional, you're living in a brain that's not logical. You're going to say something you shouldn't say. You're going to misinterpret something that you think is there but isn't there. You're living in a subjective world instead of an objective world.
There you go. That's a good question.
How long did it take you to master sales?
I haven't mastered sales. I'm still a student. I think we're all students, right? Because if I said I've mastered sales, that would really make me a know-it-aller, and I would stop learning. Like I learned new things here from Andrew, just in a podcast. I can't imagine what I would learn in his courses compared to a podcast, which is more of an overview, right? So always think of yourself as, I always have this motto, like I know nothing. I'm a sponge. I'm always learning. And because you're like that, you eventually get there, maybe in the next life. I don't know, but I think you never master anything fully. You get as close as you can, but you're always a student. If you always take that thing, like as a business owner or a salesperson or whatever you do, you could be in operations, you could run the finance team, whatever. If you just master what that thing is and you're continually learning and wanting to learn, it's really hard to fail in life.
Remember we were talking about mirroring, right? Mirroring is real. Yes, you can use it as a tactic, but it is very, very real subconsciously. When we're around people who are actually like us, who mirror our values, mirror our commitment, mirror our energy, mirror our effort, it feels good.
Yeah.
And then you just want to be around those people more. And it's very, very easy to identify when the person across from you is not a mirror of you, right?
Yeah.
It's if you've ever been in a situation where you look at somebody, you're like, I see a little bit of me in you. You know how good that feels and how much you want to see that person succeed and how much you want to be with that person. And likewise, when you see somebody and you're like, yeah, I'm nothing like you, you know what it's like to not want to put any effort into that person.
You're ahead of the game. You're smart.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
So you guys talked a lot about the psychology and kinesiology in tradecraft. What is an element of counter-tradecraft to identify those things and prevent yourself from getting one taken over on you?
The number one thing you have to do is identify when you're getting emotional. If you're getting emotional and you can identify that something about the other person is triggering that emotion, that gives you the logical space, the rational brain power to say, is this because they're using tradecraft or is this because they're just triggering something that's inside me? If you don't have that red flag, then you will be in your emotional brain. And then we've already talked about it. It's a rolling downhill waterfall from there. You have to understand right away when somebody is triggering or trying to trigger that emotional state. And it takes time and it takes practice, but that's the fastest way to spot a spook. Yeah. It's the fastest way to spot a salesperson. For those of you who have had a bad salesperson try to sell you, you can see all the problems in it right away.
Yeah.
It's the same way in spying. And you're like, this is a counterintelligence issue right here.
You really, and there's a fine line because you have to like quickly make an assessment. Are they doing this to me? Like where they're literally trying to take advantage, or are they doing this for me? Because I want to, there's a difference there, because if I'm a psychologist and I'm talking to somebody who said that they want to end their life, and if I'm sitting here thinking like, well, are they trying to get me in an emotional state, or like, and you're trying to like stop them from doing that, you have to decide like, are they doing this to me, or are they doing this for me to actually help me? And that's how I look at that for sure.
Thanks.
I hope that we helped you on that one.
The question for the young generation: give us 60 seconds masterclass about a tactic we can use right away and will blow our mind, and we can't learn it anywhere.
So a masterclass for the younger generation, try, just start doing something, right? There's a concept that we have at CIA that you learn mastery through execution, not through study. So you have to keep executing and executing and executing, and you will learn what works and you will learn what doesn't work. But the longer you sit around planning, the less you're actually mastering anything. The older generations understand that. The older generations didn't have the option of forever scrolling to try to study the next thing. We had to go to a library. That shit took time, and we didn't want to go to the library, so we just went out there and started mowing lawns and selling newspapers. So if the young generation would just take action first and learn from their own experience, they would do so much better than their competitors.
Perfect. All right, who do we got next? It's a good question.
You said something earlier about neurotypical core emotions. But I was talking to Dave earlier, and in corporate management, executive level, there's an increased rate of psychopathy and also non-neurotypical behavior. So how do you identify core emotions of those that are not neurotypical?
It's a great question. So I want to define neurotypical to help everybody. So neurotypical means chemically balanced brain. So that is a neurotypical person. That they can still be antisocial personality disorder, ASPD, which is the foundation for sociopathy and psychopathy, but they're not Asperger's, right? That's a chemical imbalance. They're not too far on the extreme with autism. They might still be ADHD, that's still chemically balanced, right? But when we talk about neurotypical, we're talking about a fully functioning, healthy brain. A psychopath still has a fully functioning, healthy brain. When you start getting into antisocial personality disorder, which is what drives executives and it drives people of success, especially people who are non-entrepreneurial success, those are people who oftentimes live on that sociopathy or psychopathy spectrum. They have a core emotion. And oftentimes that core emotion is anger. Anger is what drives them. Sociopaths are driven by anger because they feel like they are being forced to follow rules that they disagree with. I know this because I am part on that spectrum of antisocial personality disorder towards sociopathy, and it pisses me off that I can't cross the street wherever I want to cross the street.
Sure.
Right? Connect with their anger. Validate their anger. You can understand their anger because even if you are a totally balanced neurotypical rule follower, even you can be like, yeah, it is kind of stupid that we can't cross the street wherever we want to, but it's because you can't trust drivers and drivers are assholes and blah, blah, blah. You can validate their fear and then build that emotional connection. And especially with somebody who suffers from ASPD, they do not have people they trust. So when you get into that private life, you're already one of a handful. And if you get into that secret life, you've got an executive in your pocket for life.
Got it. Thank you.
Those are really good questions, everybody. All right, everybody give it for Andrew. That was a really good question.
Give it up.